Hi, this is Brooke Devard from Naked Beauty. Are you tired of feeling housebound? I sure am. Break free with the new Unbound cordless auto curler from Conair. It's a high-performance auto curler that's rechargeable and gives you up to 60 minutes of cord-free runtime. Just think of all of the incredible hair looks you can create in 60 minutes unbound away from your wall. Don't get tied down by cords. Love your look, live unbound. Check it out at Conair.com and search Unbound.
Hey folks, welcome back to the No Huddle Show podcast. I'm your host, Mike Kaye, Eagles beat reporter for NJ.com. I'm here with fellow NJ Advanced Media Eagles beat writer Chris Franklin. How you doing today, Chris?
Well, it's been interesting. I'm doing all right. Can't say it's been a dearth of news coming out of Lincoln Financial Field today with everything going on. But other than that, everything's going well.
Yeah, seriously slow news day for us on our end. You know, nothing. There were birds in the sky. There was sun up in the sky. A lot of stuff going on in the sky. But actually, you know, as we joke, there was a lot going down on the ground as well. Unfortunately, the Eagles have reportedly lost Andre Dillard for the season due to a biceps tear that he suffered Thursday during practice. Now we're recording this a couple hours later. Look, Andre Dillard's injury is a really, really, really tough blow for the Eagles. While he wasn't performing probably as well as you would expect or as consistently as you would expect as a second-year first-round pick, you know, he's a guy that they view as their future at left tackle. They brought back Jason Peters to be the starting right guard, and, you know, he's looked okay at the position. Dillard's looked okay at left tackle, and now with Dillard going down, that kind of puts, you know, a monkey wrench to the whole, hey, we're going to try Jason Peters at a new position, and we're going to give Andre Dillard a shot outlook for the Eagles. Presumably, Jason Peters will move back to left tackle. Matt Pryor will now move to right guard. You know, look, the Eagles don't have great offensive line depth. They didn't have it before they brought back Jason Peters. Losing Brandon Brooks was a massive blow as well because he's probably the best right guard in football. But given what we saw from Andre Dillard during training camp before his injury, do you think this is really the worst case scenario for the Eagles, Chris?
I actually really do, because I know Jason Peters has a lot, and I do mean a lot of experience over at the left tackle, but he's going to have to go back there because it necessitates everything. I think this really, really shines a light on the depth that this offensive line has, or lack thereof. It's still, when it comes to Jason Peters, I mean, how many times do we see availability? He had to leave series last year when it came to a lot of the games, either when it came to arm or leg or what have you. And now, if you lose Peters, you're just stuck with either Jordan Mailata. You may have to swing Pryor over there. You may have to go out and look to see who can fill it, or you may have to put a rookie in. You may have to put either Prince Tega Wanogho, or I think they basically been moving Driscoll over to right. But if really worst case scenario, you have to shift him over to the left side, which is going to be a little rough. So I think just the amount of influx that offensive line does, and now the whole shell game you have to have in order to protect Carson Wentz's blind side, it's especially in this close to the beginning of the season, it's not the best time for something like this to happen. I mean, you never want to see injuries happen at any time, but considering when it has happened, it's not great.
Well, call me Philadelphia Picasso, because I'm going to paint you a prettier picture here, okay?
Okay.
Here's the positive spin on this, okay? For one, Jason Peters was playing at a high level at left tackle last season when healthy. You now have him at left tackle. You know what he is. You know what you're going to get from him. He's also in great shape. He's an upgrade at left tackle as far as I'm concerned. Now you're worried about right guard. Everybody thought Matt Pryor was going to be the starting right guard to begin with. So now he's going to be back at right guard. The Eagles feel really good about him. He's also been practicing at right tackle as well, so he's still getting reps with the first team. He understands he's got a rhythm to it. Now he's going to move into right guard. I think he can be a pretty good right guard. He showed a lot of promise against the Seahawks last season during the playoffs. And then I think when you're looking at from just like a depth standpoint, they've been using Nate Herbig with the first team offense as well at right guard. He can play left guard. He can play center. Jack Driscoll is also looking quite good at right tackle. He has looked good at left guard. He can play multiple positions. So both the guard positions have really solid depth, even with Matt Pryor moving up on the depth chart. Prince Dago Inagu has looked good in team drills. Casey Toohill had kind of his way with him a couple of times today in practice, but I think Winagu has a lot of upside. I thought he was one of the steals of the draft. He's clearly recovered from the meniscus surgery he had this offseason. I think he's in better position to take over for Jason Peters than Jordan Mailata, who you took notes on him today. I still don't think he should make the team. I still don't know how you make him one hit away from putting him into a game when he's never played in a meaningful game in his life. And he's had, I think, 6 to 7 preseason games. Just to me, I don't think that that's a really smart move, especially from a roster management standpoint. But from a play calling standpoint, how do you think this affects the way the Eagles are going to block and use, especially the running game?
Well, it may have to affect it dramatically. I mean, just think about this. Week 1 right now, you have Chase Young that may be lining up at that right defensive end going against Jason Peters, who's not prime Jason Peters. I mean, he's still a great athletic player, but he's not what he was in his prime. You're going to have to either go put a tight end on that side, he'll help him out in that zone blocking scheme, or even when it comes to pass in a pass game. If you want to really, really, truly feel like you want to go and protect Carson Wentz's blind side, if you leave him out, Chase Young on an island, Jason Peters right now, I'm leaning the edge to Chase Young. That's just me personally. So you're going to have to go ahead and shift your backs going on that backside. You're going to probably have to play a lot of 12 personnel now in order to go ahead and keep either Ertz or Goddard in there to block just in case. Or you're going to have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, what have you, come out the backfield and chip him just in order to make sure you try to slow this down. And that just shifts personnel-wise. And we've been talking so much about how fast these new receivers are. Now, if you have to go 12 personnel, you have to keep one of those fast receivers off. So it's just a domino effect with this injury to Dillard. And that's another reason why I'm really concerned about this.
So I think, before you joined the beat, I was very adamant that the Eagles needed to bring in an experienced swing tackle for this very reason. I think when you're looking at the dynamics of the position, the Eagles value quarterback, backup quarterback, left tackle, right tackle, and defensive end more than anything. And I think they're at a point right now where they really need to, hone in on getting some depth in that area. I feel good about their right tackle situation. I think Driscoll's fine there. I think their guard position's fine when you have Herbig and Driscoll. I even feel good about backup center with Herbig and Jariga, who I think now makes the roster if they don't do anything. It's the backup left tackle spot that I'm concerned about. That said, Isaac Seumalo can play tackle. Lane Johnson can move over there. Matt Pryor can play right tackle. Obviously, Coach Stoutland has said in the past that he doesn't want to move guys around. And I get that, oh man, I'm going to get so much beef from other beat writers because I called him Coach Stoutland. But Jeff Stoutland has said that, he's a guy I have a lot of respect for, but he's a guy that doesn't believe in adjusting two positions to make one better. And I think that's where there's a problem and a disconnect potentially here. They're going to have to check the waiver wire. They're going to have to look at free agency. They're going to have to look into trades. And talking about trades and making roster moves, the Eagles have made some roster moves this offseason or this week. I don't want to move away from Dillard because Dillard's still the main overarching topic, but I think from my perspective, they've brought in a lot of guys that fans have kind of taken to. They've heard of T.Y. McGill. They've heard of Trevor Williams. They've heard of Tyrone Swoops. Those three guys are in here to take reps. They're trying to win a practice squad spot because at this point, with the COVID virus, the NFL's allowing 6 players of any experience to be on the practice squad. They cut Trevor Williams before training camp. They clearly don't love him that much. T.Y. McGill was here in 2018 for a second. I think he's more of a, hey, fill up reps guy while Javon Hargrave is out. They're running through padded practices. Anthony Rush has dealt with an illness. Vinnie Curry's, out with an injury. So they need to fill up reps. Sidney Jones is sidelined, so you have Trevor Williams. Tyrone Swoops is a guy that's taking over for Josh Perkins, who got put on IR. But I think as we see these injuries take hold, we've got to look at this roster, because this roster is going to be very young. There's a very good chance that 11 to 13 rookies are on this 53-man roster this year. When you look at the 10 draft picks, who I think all 10 will make this team. And then you look at like 3 to 4 undrafted players who have a real shot at making this roster. I wrote a piece earlier this week about the 4 undrafted guys who I think have a very good shot. I think 3 of them will make it. I think Noah Tongiai, the tight end, I think he's the clear favorite for the number 3 job. Doug Peterson recently brought him up. I think when you look at Graylin Arnold, who hasn't stood out as much this week, but I just think they really like his versatility when you talk about the positionless secondary. And then Luke Juriga, the center, with Dillard going down, if they don't look for another offensive lineman, to me, he's offensive lineman number 9, if we're taking Dillard out of the equation. You've been somebody who's big on underdogs this offseason. Who are guys that have kind of stood out and maybe can stick out even further with some of these injuries to Josh Perkins and Rob Davis and Andre Dillard and even Vinnie Curry? Who are some guys that you think will benefit from these injuries, as unfortunate as they are?
That's a tough one. I think Juriga, like you said, especially as a center, I think I think he could possibly play a little bit guard too, personally, for me, but I think he's going to be a person that's going to go ahead and benefit. But also, I think when it comes to weapons wise, I think Adrian Killens. I think you're going to need all hands on deck when it comes to somebody who shows versatility, especially if you have an illness or what have you on either the running back or wide receiver section and positions. I think you're going to need somebody who's able to do that. Now, my one dark horse was actually cut already. RIP Eagles career, Dante Olson. But I thought he was going to be somebody good, but that is good bad on that one too. But I think Graylin Arnold, I think he's going to be somebody, even though, like you said, he didn't have a great week this week in availability. But I think Graylin Arnold's going to be somebody who's going to sneak in on the back end of that roster, especially with, I think, the situations that we see with Sidney Jones and Russell Douglas. I think he's another guy that comes in. But overall, I think those would be the main guys. And actually, I got to say this, even though he's a long shot, I'm still looking at Matt Leo's actually been playing really pretty well during his training camp. I mean, he's made some, granted, it's the second team and third team guys on that offensive line, and seeing what we've seen lately with this, the depth issues and some struggles some of these guys have had, Matt Leo's actually looked pretty well rushing the passer. So he's another guy. I don't think he makes it long term, but on the practice squad, I think he's all right, and I think he has a decent future, possibly as a back of the position guy in the NFL.
Well, the Eagles have that international player pathway program exemption for him, so he doesn't count against the roster right now, and he also wouldn't count against the practice squad, so they can develop him long term. So that's good to hear. I noticed him a little bit today. I didn't really notice him a ton prior to that. So speaking of like roster battles and stuff like that, I wanted to talk to you about what I think is the most intriguing position battle that I think still needs to be settled. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 spots that are probably unclaimed just based on my outlook towards the 53-man roster. I might be wrong. There might be more. There might be less. But just kind of looking at the whole pizza pie here, I think the 5th cornerback spot is extremely interesting to me because you've got 2 former day 2 picks in Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones. And then you've got the special team standout from last year, Craig James. Now, today, Sidney Jones was in pads, but just like yesterday, he didn't take part in team drills. And while he was on the sideline, we saw some good moments from both James and Douglas. I think right now those guys are neck and neck. The thing is, both of them play special teams. Jones really doesn't. Jones has been sidelined. He's been unavailable. So I do wonder if the Eagles are at this point right now where they're just like, you know what, let's sit him out of practice and maybe see if we can shop him now at this point, maybe for a swing tackle to a team that's having cornerback issues. But, where do you stand with James and Douglas? I know you were kind of bigger on Douglas than Jones, but are you in on James?
I saw, looking at today, I will say this. James has shown a lot of effort. He's shown a lot of speed getting to the ball, and he will contest catches. That being said, I think if it came down to either Craig James or Rasul Douglas, I'm going to stick with Rasul Douglas. I know I'm wavering back and forth. It pretty much goes week to week with Rasul Douglas. Sometimes he's like, okay, you feel good about it. Sometimes he's infuriating. But I think James has been all right. I think depending on the receiver he's onto it, maybe it's just a height thing. I know Hightower's gotten the best of him a couple of times, but I think Rasul Douglas overall, if you're going to go between those two, I think Douglas, at least you have a veteran that's going to go back there that knows the system already, that will go ahead and go ahead. I think will be more, how do I say this? I think he will contribute a little bit more as well, too. And one thing, I don't know if you've seen as well, too, it seems like Rasul Douglas is getting on more and more special teams, and they're trying him out a little bit places, too, just to see if he can contribute in those areas as well. So I know he played special teams here and there last year, but I think between the two, given the two, I think I'm going to go Rasul Douglas. I mean, what do you think?
So Craig James was part of the self-proclaimed Fab Five of special teams players last year. That was TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton, Duke Riley, Nathan Gary, and of course, Craig James. And Craig was the only cornerback in that group. All the rest of the guys were linebackers. Look, I think Craig James is a guy who can actually benefit this team on defense as well. I think Douglas of the two has trade value. I think if I'm the Eagles, I'm probably shopping both Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas. And if I can get anything for either one of them, I'm feeling good about myself. I just kind of think you're at a point here where do you trust Douglas to be in this positionless quote unquote backfield or secondary? Like that to me is like, I just don't see where he fits. Like I agree that he's a better corner than Craig James. I think he's a better corner really at this point than Sidney Jones from what I've seen. But like, does he fit, right? Like to me, he's either a press man corner or he's playing cover three like basically all the time. And so to me, do you trade him to a team like Atlanta or Seattle who might have some cornerback depth issues? Maybe you can get a backup offensive tackle or a backup running back from them, kind of cure some of your woes elsewhere. That's my thing. But I think we're kind of on the same page. I think both of us don't feel 100% great about either guy, but like to me, that's what makes this battle so intriguing. And then I think as our format, I know we've previously been doing a lot of sound clips. I just think with the news of Dillard and so much going on today that we really need to touch on this. And this is something that I kind of wanted to talk about. We try not to get political on here, but this to me is not a political issue. This is a human issue. With the social climate right now, Eagles players decided to practice today. Doug Peterson held a meeting last night to discuss the recent police-involved shooting of another person of color. And I just think, we got to listen to Carson Wentz and Rodney McLeod and Jalen Mills today. And Chris, I was wondering what your main takeaways were from all of this.
Well, first of all, I think compared, who would have thought even 2 years before would we even be talking about stuff like this? And the fact that we have, it's the top of mind. Unfortunately, it's come through a number of police-involved shootings, but at least it looks like some stuff will be addressed, and you'll have not only African-American and Black players be involved, but you have everybody from all races involved in heading to the right and toward the right direction. And Rodney McLeod said something that I thought was a very important statement, and that the owners have to be part of this as well, too, now. He said that when it came to a lot of the owners, a lot of them would say behind in a locker room or privately to a lot of these players that they were behind them 100% when it came to their views and it came to making some social reforms. But how many times have you seen owners, not just the NFL, but in any sport, actually come out and say, hey, you know what? We're behind you guys 100%. I want to use my voice to go ahead and say, you know what, this is wrong. You don't find that many at all. I mean, how many teams do you think actually have social justice councils like the Eagles do. I think this moving so far in the right direction. There's still a long ways to go. And there's a lot of times when I think a personal experience has been through things, my family, that friends that I know. I mean, even Jalen Mills, the story he told of being inside of a movie theater as a teenager and then seeing your friend basically accosted by a police officer, tased in the face, and had to wear a patch on his face because the skin burnt off due to a taser is really powerful stuff. It's stuff that no child, no adult, nobody should ever have to go through at all. And to see everybody spend time and talk about this and share it, even with different views. There are a lot of people with different views from it or different from me when it comes to that. And I get it, but at least listen and empathize and understand. And you see, and Carson Wentz talked about it. He's empathizing. I mean, as a guy from North Dakota who only saw a couple of black people when he was in high school, to hear the way he's talking about this and wanting to help and wanting to use his platform as well, it's just great to hear. And I'm hoping that this continues long term beyond not just 2-3 weeks and then we just go back to life as usual. I hope this is something that is sustaining and it goes on from here on out.
Yeah, and you brought up Carson Wentz, and I thought he said something very, very poignant. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I no longer can make the excuse that I'm a white kid from North Dakota. You know, he's grown. He's experienced other cultures. He's experienced other cities. His eyes are open now. And I thought that was very interesting and very self-reflective and very self-aware. And as he becomes a bigger leader in the NFL and in life, and as you know, he's a new father, and as someone who has a 19-month-old, I understand how having a child changes your entire outlook on life, whether it's positive, negative, in any direction or in any focus in any event. And I think we're having these difficult conversations, but they're conversations that are necessary, whether you fall in any line of the argument. I think that they're very important to have because we as a culture have freedom of speech, and that speech is very important to use. Switching gears now, I wanted to talk about the link not having fans for the foreseeable future or until further notice, quote unquote. The Eagles, the city of Philadelphia, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania announced today that there will not be any fans in the stands for the foreseeable future. The Eagles have their home opener in Week 2 against the Rams on September 20th. I understand you have some news, Chris.
Yes, and if you're looking to go ahead and tailgate during these games, since you're not technically on the lot, good luck doing this. I actually reached out to the city of Philadelphia this afternoon just to see, hey, you know what, since the link's closed, to go ahead and check out, see if you tailgate. This is from Deputy Communications Director Kaye Cofrancisco, saying that tailgating will not be permitted on the grounds or anywhere around the area, such as Wells Fargo Center, Citizens Bank Park. Says, quote, tailgating will not be permitted. The city will be working with the Eagles, other sports teams, property owners, and Stadium District Special Services District to enforce the prohibition. So if you're thinking about going ahead and getting the grill out or just hanging out with some friends and beers outside the stadium, don't plan on doing that at all.
Prohibition, not a word that we like to hear, but it's a harsh reality of the coronavirus. And it's unfortunate because, as we've noted in our observations, this team has been pretty exciting to watch during training camp. I mean, the young wide receivers are really putting on highlight reels on a daily basis. We're looking at John Hightower make these great leaping catches. We've got Quez Watkins making catches in traffic. There's Jalen Reagor, who is automatic on slant routes. There's, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who owned the red zone over the last few days and actually looked really good in the open field today because they're using him like they used him at Stanford. This young receiver group looks good, and I think the Eagles are going to have an interesting but good problem to have figuring out who's going to start, because right now, if Alshon Jeffrey starts off on PUP, my ideal trio would actually be Deshaun Jackson at the Z receiver spot, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside at the X spot, and then Jalen Reagor inside in the slot. I don't think that's what it'll end up being. I actually think it'll be Reagor at the X spot instead of Arcega-Whiteside, and then Ward in the slot. But I do think that Arcega-Whiteside's been more impressive than Ward. I think Hightower and Quez Watkins are having really good practice sessions, but so did J.J. Arcega-Whiteside last year. So I think it'll be interesting to see how all this kind of shakes out when we're looking at this. I also think when we look at kind of the overall dynamic of the team, the running backs have impressed me more than I thought they would. I know you were high on them early on in camp. Elijah Holyfield's the guy who, in my opinion, is the front runner for the fourth running back spot. I think Adrian Killins is kind of nipping at his heels. But what's a position that you think's impressed you over the last couple of days?
You were right when it comes to that running back spot. I think Elijah Holyfield, he's showing a lot of power. And that's why, one thing I was looking for in that running back position was who was going to be that nasty guy to lower his shoulder when you get on 3rd and 2. And even though you're probably going to have Sanders in there, but just in case you need that extra 1 or 2 yards, I wouldn't mind putting Holyfield in there. He's throwing, not only is he showing physically that he's able to do it, he's bringing his little attitude around as well, too, so much so that he's getting the defense kind of hyped up. He's going around for when you see him finish up a block, I forget who he put a shoulder into, but he put a shoulder into, knocks him on the ground, was talking to him, you can't mess with me, you can't bleep and mess with me, and walks back to the huddle that way, too. Got the defense a little riled up. But I think Holyfield's looking good. Killings, like you said, is a good swing. He could, as his versatility could be as well, too. One person I thought that would really have a good camp and be that person that could really push was Michael Warren. And unfortunately, he's tailing off, it looks, as camp progresses. He has his moments where he looks good, but I think the fact there's no preseason games is not helping him either. And he's falling further and further from the pack. So I definitely think the running backs a position. We've been talking a lot of weaknesses. Running back is definitely a position of strength I see for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're talking about depth and everything, I actually think corners looked okay. I think safeties looked good. Linebacker, whatever. Defensive line has looked good, even with the plethora of injuries that they've had. We should note Jannard Avery suffered a bone bruise reportedly, as opposed to anything major after he was carted off the field on Wednesday. I really thought he was done. It looked bad. So there's that. But I still think Joe Osman, who was out of practice today with a lower body injury, and Casey Toohill have looked remarkably better during practice. And then I think, the offensive line's really the major concern, especially left tackle. Even with Jason Peters starting, it's still kind of something that you worry about because he's going to take off a few plays per game, potentially due to injury or soreness, or he could miss 3 to 4 games, during the season. That's just his MO. So I think the Eagles really need to figure out that spot over the next couple of weeks. There's just 2 more legit training camp practices left, and that'll be this weekend. Barring any changes due to the social justice conversation or what have you. So I think we should close out this whole thing with a segment that we've been looking forward to called The Great Potato Debate 2020. Now, I put out a tweet earlier this week saying that potato wedges are significantly better than French fries. I was met with a firestorm of comments, questions, concerns. And, we don't like to be political on this show, as I've said, but I think this is a debate worth having given the social climate that revolves around potatoes. Well, I should say the social media climate that revolves around potatoes. So, Chris, why are French fries better than potato wedges, in your opinion?
I'll start out by saying this, Mike. I thought we were friends at first but when you made that wedges comment, I had to seriously rethink everything that was going on. But I'm going to go back to my QB roots, and explain why French fries the regular French fries are better than wedges. I'm going to a restaurant, and I'm going to look at it as progressions. Regular fries they're my 9 route. They're my go route. They're my home run hitter. I'm going to get the ball to that one too. When you get like a McDonald's or a Wendy's or Checkers, especially, Checkers fries are good. But when you go to one of those places, it just tastes amazing. If they don't have that there, I'm going to go to my second progression, which is probably the dig, which is AKA the waffle fries. I'm going to go for Chick-fil-A, or even if I feel like, hey, you want to go put it in the oven, get some more Ida ones seasoned, that's great. It gets you the first down. You keep moving the ball. Then you go to wedges. Wedges to me, they're the check down routes of fries. They're the ones that like, it's 3rd and 15. I don't want to throw the ball away. I got to throw it there. I don't want to feel like I have a mouth guard in my mouth when it comes and eat an edible mouth guard in my mouth when I want to go ahead and do something like that. And for those people, I know somebody said curly fries. Curly fries are like the Taysom Hill fries. They're gadget fries. They're there, but if you have to eat them over and over and over, and over time they get exposed. So I pass to that. I mean, how are you going to convince me that wedges are the best thing ever? I'm sorry, I just can't see it.
So I'm going to take the offensive line route on this one, okay? So Andre Dillard, as a rookie, there were questions about if he was soft, if he struggled against strength, if he didn't bear enough weight. That's what French fries are to me. They're a dime a dozen. You don't want like a left tackle who's a dime a dozen. You want a guy who can anchor. You want some strength. You want to feel fulfilled in your blocking, right? As an offensive lineman. That's what wedges are to me. Wedges fulfill you. If you're having a lighter entree, you need a strong, supporting cast. And I think when we look at the offensive line, if you've got a bunch of, stoutness up front, you're feeling good about your quarterback play, your main entree, because you're protecting him by softening the blow of maybe, a quarterback who's like Kyler Murray, who's a little small. Maybe you got like a 5-ounce steak. Ugh, rough. But like, let's say you get a petite steak. If you've got wedges, they can fill you up. Let's say an entree doesn't come with a salad and a side. If you have potato wedges, that's going to be more fulfilling. I just think like you get more bang for your buck with potato wedges. And as somebody who lived in the South for so long, you go to Bojangles, you go to Publix, and they have the best wedges ever. They make the meal to me. So that's why I'm going to go up with the stout guys in the trenches, which are the potato wedges. I've seen people say, what about steak fries? Forget steak fries. French fries are great. They're the Demetrius Bell of potatoes. You can put them in there, make it do things. They might have a relationship with Karl Malone. They might not. I don't know. But to me, wedges are king. And look, wedges are also higher class, in my opinion. You only get those at nicer restaurants or nicer takeout places. French fries, everybody serves them. It's like when everybody's like, yeah, that guy can play left tackle. He'll be all right. And then he goes out there and pulls a Winston Justice and gives up like 6 sacks in one game. That's what French fries are, because it's so easy to screw them up. They can be bland. They can be oversalted. With wedges, you know what you're getting. You're getting the potato. And that's why wedges should win the great potato debate 2020. If you guys have a take on the wedges, please drop a line in the comments section, give us a 5-star review, and then tell us about your wedge or fry standing. These two parties have been going at it for decades. It's gotten kind of nasty, especially with the salt content in both. But to me, it's a home run with the wedges. So from there, let's do our closing thoughts as we kind of wrap up this whole podcast, the No Huddle Show podcast, that is, where you can download us on anywhere, basically, that you can download podcasts. Make sure you do it. You can also sign up for Eagles Extra. It's in all of our articles on NJ.com in the sports section. 2-week free trial. You can ask Chris and I like anything you want, pretty much. You basically just get to text us your Eagles questions. You can ask us about wedges. You can ask us about fries. You can have us debate something else, and we'll typically answer those questions on air if we decide to do a mailbag episode. which we're going to try to do more often. But Chris, what are your final thoughts as we wrap up here?
I think I'll start my final thoughts with Demetrius Bell and Winston Justice references. That was great. But I think one guy who may not be getting as much pub right now because of his counterpart is Nicole Roby Coleman. I mean, each day that goes on and you see him out there, I think he's going to be one person who a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised with. I think, especially with a lot of the headlines going towards Slay or Avante Maddox, Nicole Roby Coleman is going to be somebody who you'll feel comfortable enough with manning the slide or outside, depending which other side that Slay is going to cover. So I will say this, I'll give Howie Roseman a lot of credit. That was a great signing. I think he made the Rams definitely weaker. I think he made the Eagles stronger. I think he's making Greg Ward a better slot receiver. There's been a lot sometimes been watching. He's been giving Greg Ward the business at times, but that's been a great battle to watch between the two of those. But I think anybody who follows his team this year is going to be comfortable for the first time in a long time at who's manning the nickel corner.
And to that point, let's stick with the secondary. My final thoughts are on Jalen Mills, who I think has looked a lot more natural at the safety position than a lot of people thought he would. He's looked a lot more natural than he did at corner. He had 2 interceptions this week. I just feel like he looks very confident. He's very vocal back there. It seems like he just knows where he is. He's tackling well. He's present. And I think he just is more natural looking at the quarterback. I think he's got ball skills, so that helps the secondary as well. They haven't had a lot of interceptions at the safety position over the years. So I think the Jalen Mills is having a camp to be proud of, and I think Eagles fans will be surprised with how well he plays at safety. Well, that will wrap it up for the No Huddle Show podcast on August 27th, 2020, the day that Andre Dillard tore his bicep. You can download us anywhere where you can download podcasts. As I said earlier, sign up for Eagles Extra. It's a 2-week free trial. You can check out the rest of our training camp notes. You'll get exclusive news, notes, and nuggets sent straight to your phone. You can avoid social media and the Twitter storm and the negativity on social media and just get all the information sent to your phone. It's a really great program, and you can text with us. That's the coolest thing of all. You can ask us your questions. You can get insight that you wouldn't get on the website or maybe social media. And we're having a good time with it. The people that are on there right now, we have a nice little community that we communicate with. So that's been pretty cool. We will see you guys next Thursday unless the Eagles make a big move, which maybe they will now that Andre Dillard's on the shelf. We'll see you soon.